So I'm going to spend very little time on this intro, as obviously I don't think this video needs much introduction. Essentially, we're now in the end of Master Duel. If you're a graveyard deck, that is. Because essentially, Dimension Shifter has now grown a pair of legs and has called itself a boss monster, and it's here to now completely warp the meta of Master Duel. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before getting to the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, so apparently about 35% who are watching this are even subscribed to the channel, meaning 65% of you haven't even subscribed yet. So if you guys are enjoying this kind of content and want to see more videos from me in the future or more deck lists from me in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel down below. Also, I have a Prediction Princess video planned and a Gishki Sprite video coming out tomorrow, so if you want to see those videos, remember to subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump into this deck list. Alright, so what exactly is new in this deck list compared to the previous variants we were seeing in Master Duel? Well, it's had a severe upgrade, and I mean severe. This deck list has gone from being some tier 24 roguish sort of deck list to being an absolute top tier contender, if not the best deck list in the game. Alright, so we've got a whole bunch of new cards, starting off with the obvious one being your Kashtira Arise-Heart. This thing takes 3 level 7 monsters, or if you've already used the effect of your Kashtira Shangri-ira during the turn, you can summon it using just any old Kashtira card you like, and just slam him on top of it using as only one material. Alright, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So already, that effect alone is enough to make this card extremely meta relevant, as it's just Dimension Shifter on legs. Alright, once per chain, each time a card is banished, attach one banished card to this card as material. Once per turn, quick effect, you can attach 3 materials from this card, then target one card on the field, banish it face down. So, on top of being a really nasty floodgate that is potentially summonable with one material only, it can also keep sucking up materials and then banish cards your opponent controls. Absolutely disgusting. But of course, he's not the only addition to the deck list. We've got plenty of other new cards to go through. We'll start off with joyous. This card targets one other Kashtira monster you control, summons out a Kashtira monster from your deck list with a different attribute than the one you just targeted, which obviously, all your Kashtiras just have different attributes anyway, so it can just summon out basically any Kashtira you like from the deck list with a different name to the one you already have on the field. Also, when this card is banished, you can then target one of your banished Kashtira cards and add it to your hand as well, which is pretty good because we now have a Kashtira Scareclaw, which can banish your spell card from your graveyard to then summon itself to the field, which is a great extending play and also allows you to use this thing's effect to add back some of your banished cards. Alright, then we have your field spell, your Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, or how you pronounce this card. This card is there's a reason it's limited to one. It's basically going to be your Telements field spell, but for Kashtira. When this card is activated, you can add one Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand, so already, it's just a searcher for any of your Kashtiras. Monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for each different attribute on the field. Again, we just mentioned all your Kashtiras have different attributes, so it's an insane stat boost to all your dudes. If a Kashtira Shangri-ira you control activates effect, you can then target one card on the field and destroy it. So, already going to be popping your opponent's stuff, it's an insane consistency boost, and spoiler alert, your main combo for this deck list doesn't use its normal summon, so we can play Planet Pathfinder, which allows you to search for this card as well, which is fantastic considering in Master Duel we've had a bit of a consistency sort of restriction to this deck list, having this card only limited to one on release. Obviously Pot of Prosperity is limited to one as well, so having this card be able to search for your field spell is just a great consistency boost that makes this deck list actually playable. Alright, other new cards in this deck list include, obviously, your Triple Tactics Thrust. You're going to be seeing a shit ton of this card throughout basically the rest of Master Duel's existence, because this card is disgusting. If your opponent has activated a monster effect during this turn, set one normal spell and trap card directly from your deck, or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. So if your opponent activates something like an Ash Blossom or a Maxx or something really annoying, you can activate your Thrust to then add any of your spell and trap cards from your deck list to your hand, and then if your opponent controls a monster, you can use them during that turn essentially, because obviously if your opponent doesn't control a monster, you can only set them, which is not that bad considering you can play things like your Dimensional Barrier, you can play your Infinite Impermanence, but if your opponent does control a monster, it means we can search for things like your Triple Tactics Talon, which is obviously just an insane card. So you're going to be seeing a shit ton of this. Even in deck lists outside of Kashtira, you're going to be seeing a lot of this card. And the final new card in the deck list is going to be your Big Bang. Now this card, I'm going to be honest, the first effect of it is fairly irrelevant. You'll basically never use it. You can sometimes add this card back to your hand if you happen to banish this card with your spell card. But generally this trap card, you don't really want to see it all that often. You want it to be in your deck list because you want it for its second effect. So its first effect is basically just a shitty version of Evenly Matched. If a Kashtira exceeds monsters on the field and a player controls 2 or more monsters, they must banish monsters they control face down, so they only control 1 monster. If this card is banished, you can target one Kashtira exceeds monster you control, add one of your Kashtira monsters attached to it to your hand, then you can special summon that monster. You can use the effect once per turn. So generally, you're just going to use this card in combination with your Arise-Heart to target one of your exceeds monsters to then summon a dude to the field. It'll make sense during the combo portion, but generally, you want this card to be in your deck list as often as possible. You don't want to have it in your hand, because its first effect is extremely irrelevant. And that's basically it for the deck list, so without further ado, let's jump into some combos showing off what you can now do with this deck list. Oh, just one more thing. If you're wondering why we're running copies of your Elder Entity, your Garura, and your Infinitrack Goliath in this deck list, your Arise-Heart, if you remember, can suck up any banished card. That includes face downs you banish off your Pot of Prosperity. So if you have room in your extra deck, which this deck list generally tends to have, you can play these 3 cards, and you have targets for your Arise-Heart to suck up, which include things that make them immune to destruction, or if your opponent decides to remove your Goliath, then you have some extra card draw or removal to then remove some of your opponent's stuff when they go to the graveyard. So essentially, it's just a very silly little gimmick. You don't actually have to play these cards, but it's a nice little gimmick if you run Pot of Prosperity. Alright, so today I've got 3 combos to share with you guys, starting off with the 1 card combo, which is simply going to be the bread and butter for this deck list. If you open a single copy of Unicorn, you're completely set for the duel. For the rest of your hand, just all Ash Blossoms, Imperms, Maxx's, or whatever else, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a single copy of Unicorn, you can set up what is basically going to be the optimal end board for this deck list anyway, off just a single copy of Unicorn. And if you don't open Unicorn, you can also just open a single copy of Planet Pathfinder, because this deck's main combo doesn't need a normal summon. You can just use your Planet Pathfinder, normal summon it, activates effect, grab a copy of your field spell, and you're simply good to go, because your field spell then gives you a search, grabbing a copy of your Unicorn, and we have full combo. Now obviously, as per all my other combo tutorials, pretend the rest of my hand other than Unicorn is just complete and utter bricks, because obviously we're showing off a 1 card combo. Just pretend the rest of this stuff is just all Ash Blossoms or other hand traps or something, other than of course the Unicorn. Alright, to summon out the Unicorn, activates effect. This will give you a copy of your Theosis. Alright, activate your Theosis. Summoning out a copy of your Fenrir from the deck, which is of course going to give you a search for another Kashtira, giving you the missing Kashtira. Your copy of your Arise-Heart. Alright, now before using your Arise-Heart's effect, we're going to go into a copy of your Shangri-ira. I'm completely butchering how you pronounce this card's name. It just sounds like I'm trying to pronounce that one Black Ops 2 name for anyone that plays Call of Duty. That's a weird tangent. Anyway, moving on. Now we're going to summon out our Arise-Heart. Alright, put him on the field. Now the reason we want to have the Exceeds monster on the field first before using this card's effect is because with this card we're now going to be banishing a particular trap card from the deck, that being your Big Bang. And Big Bang needs an Exceeds monster on the field. So using its effect when it gets banished, this will trigger both of these effects, but most notably you get your Big Bang's effect. So you get to target this card, activating this card's effect as well, because we got to banish some of your opponent's stuff, getting to zone lock one of my opponent's zones. Alright. And Big Bang then gets to take one of the materials from below this card and place it on the field. It literally doesn't matter which one you do, because during your opponent's standby phase, you can just grab the other one from your deck anyway, so it doesn't matter which one you grab here. I guess, to be fair, Fenrir is technically better, because if your opponent has like a Ash Blossom or an Imperm top deck to disrupt this card, you won't get the search from deck list, so Fenrir is generally better, but doesn't particularly matter because, like I said, we're going to be summoning the other one from the deck list anyway. Alright, this will trigger your field spell if you happen to have it. This doesn't matter going first because it just pops a card on the field and my opponent hasn't got anything, so we just get to skip that. Alright, and then we're using my 1 card on field, we can just summon out a copy of Arise-Heart straight on top of it. Alright, and that is basically going to be your end field. You're going to pass the turn here, and then during my opponent's standby phase, this thing's effect will trigger. This will summon out a copy of your, the one you don't have on the field, so you can grab a copy of your Unicorn here, because we already have a Fenrir. And that's basically your end field. Again, this thing's effect triggered to pop a card on the field from your field spell, but we're not going to do that yet because our opponent hasn't got anything, but if he did, obviously you could pop something. But that's basically your end field. You have your Floodgate Arise-Heart, which only has 1 material currently, but will gain materials as you banish cards, which then it can pop a card on the field as well. You have your Shangri-ira on the field, which is going to continuously lock zones. We've got your Fenrir for a banish when your opponent uses an effect. We've got a banish from your opponent's extra deck when they use an effect. And we have 4 other cards in hand, that being an Ash Blossom or Imperms or Maxx or whatever else you have in hand. Just a whole bunch of extra resources you can use to potentially make bigger end fields or just hold in hand for extra hand traps. In general, it's just a really disgusting 1-card combo. Alright, onto the 2-card combos. So these combos are basically, what do you do if you don't actually open your Unicorn? Well, this deck list has a couple of nice little 2-card combos that make up for that. One of them being, of course, your Fenrir in combination with either your Theosis or your Birth. It will still end on the same end field, and it's basically the same combo, just depends on whichever one you open, just a bit of different sequencing, but it's essentially going to be the same combo, and I'm sure you can sort of work it out for yourself. But essentially, you just need Fenrir in either Birth or Theosis, doesn't matter which, just the comboing and sequencing will be a little bit different. Alright, so first of all, going to activate your Fenrir. This can then give you your Unicorn. Grabbing your Unicorn. Now you can activate your Birth, and gives you an extra summon, so you can just summon out your Unicorn. Alright, Unicorn can then grab you a copy of your Theosis. Now it's very important you use your Theosis here before you go into the Xyz monster, because the Xyz monster unfortunately is fire, and your Arise-Heart that you want to summon with your Theosis is also fire, so you have to use it first. So activate your Theosis, targeting either one, doesn't really matter, summoning out your Arise-Heart. Not going to use its effect though, because again, make sure you have an Xyz monster on the field before you use its effect first, otherwise you have no target for your Big Bang. So once again, summoning your Shangri-ira. Alright. Now we can use our Arise-Heart to grab the trap card, banishing that card, targeting your dude once again. Alright, and of course getting a nice little zone lock from your Shangri-ira as well. Alright. And summoning a copy of whichever one you want to the field. So again, generally Fenrir is the better one. And once again, ending on basically the exact same end field as the first combo, but this time we've got a Birth on the field as well. Which is obviously a great follow-up for later on to grab back some of your Kashtiras, and it's also good for your opponent. In fact, if your opponent activates a spell card, you can banish 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard as well, on top of having all the standard stuff from the same stuff as the turn 1 combo, or the 1-card combo, all the same disruption. Of course, opponent standby phase, grabbing the missing Kashtira, grabbing your Unicorn, of course. And again, ending on the exact same infield, but now we've got a copy of our Birth as well, to again, banish some stuff from our opponent's graveyard, or for a bit of follow-up to bring back some of our Kashtiras later on. Alright, onto your third and final combo. Now this combo is basically going to be, what do you do if you don't open your Unicorn and you don't open your Fenrir? Well, you've still got a nice little backup plan using your Arise-Heart, which will still end on a fairly decent end field, just not quite as good as what you potentially want to have. So, first of all, we summon out your Arise-Heart. Activate your Arise-Heart's effect. This time, you're going to banish a copy of one of your monsters. Now, if you have a copy of your Theosis, you're going to want to banish a copy of your Fenrir. If you have a copy of your Birth, you'll summon or you banish a copy of your Unicorn. Alright, so in this case, we have your Theosis in hand, so we're going to banish your Fenrir. Alright. Now we can activate our Theosis, bring out our Unicorn from the deck. Alright, grabbing our Unicorn. And again, if we'd already banished our Unicorn because we had your Birth then could have just resummoned this Unicorn to the field, grabbed your Theosis, and that would then summoned your Fenrir from the deck. But in this case, because we used Theosis first, we can now search for our Birth, which can then bring out the Fenrir that we just banished. So it'll still be the same combo, just very different sort of, slightly different sort of sequencing. Alright, now your Birth can then bring back the card you just banished, giving you your Fenrir. And now, from here we have a bit of a choice, because we can use our Fenrir's effect to search for whatever you feel like from the deck list. Generally, you can search for either follow-up by having more Fenrirs or your Unicorns, or you can search for a copy of your Kashtira, to then have a slightly different end field that's a little bit better, so that's what we're going to grab this time. Alright, so unfortunately with this deck list, or this particular combo, we won't be able to trigger a copy of our Shangri-Ila's effect, meaning we can't summon your Arise-Heart with only one material like we did in the other combos. So your end field, you could end on a copy of your Shangri-La by summoning these two dudes to the field and just have your Fenrir and just this dude on the field. Or you can use all three of these monsters, including this guy, but for example, so you activate this dude's effect, summoning him to the field by banishing this card from the graveyard. Now, using all three of these cards, we can now summon a copy of your Kashtira Arise-Heart. Using these three guys right here. Alright, place them face up. So now we end on an Arise-Heart with your Fenrir, which obviously isn't quite as good as the previous combo because you won't have your Shangri-La on the field, but it's not too bad because we've got instantly, this guy's already his effect disactivated because we have your three materials underneath him, so we can banish any card your opponent has, we have your Fenrir to banish a card, and we of course have the Floodgate effect from this card's effect anyway, so still a reasonably decent end field anyway. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this little combo tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I also leave a link to the Duel Links meta website or the Master Duel meta website where I got most of these combos from. So if you want to see a few more combos or a few more in-depth combos like 3-card combos and all that kind of stuff, you can check them out there. It'll be top of the description. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll have a Gishki Sprite video tomorrow, so if you want to see that, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.